When I retire, I want to go into farming. How do I do that?
Forget everything you think you know about agriculture. This is where seeds of information grow into fields of changing mindsets. Join us as we discuss your questions about agriculture and farming right here on the ground. Oftentimes, I encounter people near retirement from their employment, and they would usually say they're planning to pursue farming when they retire. I could really sense their enthusiasm, looking forward to that day when they can have more free time to start planting and spending their energies in the garden, cultivating their favorite veggies or even ornamental plants.
Yeah, I often hear that too, and I find myself looking at them, having a blank face, trying hard not to react, smiling silly, and in the back I can hear my conscience telling me, "Come on, go ahead, say it, say it, you can do it." it's it's a very interesting statement when I hear that. Before, I would not react. I would have no idea how to react. But now, as a farmer, I get this awkward feeling when I hear that because there's so much to say, but you don't want to say it,
Mhm.
That is actually a great discussion question among friends,
Mhm.
when they say, when I retire, how do
Yeah.
I do that? So
Where do I begin?
we can have a whole season just for this. Um, I would love to dissect that question. It
Okay,
means
go
different
ahead.
things to different people.
Mhm.
You can go to the street and ask the people on the street, and each person standing, you ask the same question, and you will get a thousand variation of response. The reason why is because it could be the reason why they want to go into for some agriculture after retirement is because they love gardening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it could be because they have some lands, they have to make something out of it,
Mhm.
or it could be there are opportunities for that option when they retire. It really depends on where a person is coming from, and I would love to have that conversation. My question to you, Mrs. Farmer AD, is
Yeah.
among the people you have met and told you their intention to do farming, what do you think made them have this idea?
I would think they see the importance of growing their own food on the basis of maybe having now they have the means to live on while also being frugal with their accumulated, their hard earned savings or pensions. And I recall my teacher in high school. She actually sent me a message recently saying she has already retired and
Mhm.
currently farming a small area which she inherited from her parents.
There you go.
She shares her enthusiasm, and I would like to quote what she said. Maugmahon baga, especially pag harvest season. She said that in Bicolano language, which translates to the joy she feels on reaping her crops. I salute you, ma'am, for being a good steward of the land that your parents have left you.
That's a great story, and it's very interesting that you mentioned producing your own food.
Mhm.
Um, this is what I have experienced, and now that I am a farmer, believe me when I say that farming in these modern times has evolved more than just producing food.
Really?
Yeah, agriculture and farming nowadays are producing food for direct eating. Some agriculture are for feed ingredients.
Yes, for the pigs and
Some are for
chickens.
grains,
Yeah.
for bread.
Yes.
Some are for materials for clothing, for ingredients or raw materials for biofuel and more.
Right.
And a lot of people who are not involved in agriculture and are far from the farms, they're living in the city, are often have no idea how big and how far agriculture has evolved over the years. And one problem with that limited view is a disconnect that nobody's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's to blame because there is a disconnect. It is just we are living separate lives. You know that popular song, "Separate Lives." That disconnect brings it with it misunderstanding, and sometimes in the extreme there would be direct conflicts like arguments. You know, when the internet becomes the source of information, sometimes what we thought we knew is not exactly what is correct out there. So that's actually one of the big idea we have why we started producing this podcast.
Mhm.
You know, the idea of producing one's food is a good thing, but it is only a very small corner of what farming and agriculture in these modern times is.
Mhm.
It's bigger than many think of or thought of. And I would like to challenge those who are not into full time farming to be open to know more because we as farmers we have so much um, to share in that learning experience. And we're not saying we're the expert
No.
in farming. In
Yeah.
fact, every time we always evaluate how we do things because there's always room for improvement.
Mhm.
There's always one tweak that can trigger a good development and increasing in yield or surviving a pest infestation.
Yes.
There are things that we always try to learn as we do farming, and it's not an exact system of science. It's actually a lifestyle and
Uh,
it's a journey. It's not an easy one though.
yeah. Nothing is more permanent than change.
And it's actually fascinating. It's a fascinating world in agriculture. And as a farmer, I would like to invite those who are not farming to really get to visit a farm, spend time with the farmer, or like this, spend time visiting our podcast, and we will tell you more. I will discuss more
What's on the
about
ground?
yeah what's on the ground. It's not a what we read on the internet. It's more on the experiences we have gone through and the challenges that we are facing. And you know, uh, agriculture having its own sense of challenges, uh, it is very important because no matter how complicated agriculture really is, it is one of the things that makes this world go round.
Mhm. At this point, we'd like to say thanks to our donors. Because of them, we are able to produce this pilot season of our podcast. You know who you are and you want to remain anonymous. Just the same, we would like to say we appreciate you. If you're interested to sponsor our podcast, just reach out to us via email or through our personal social media accounts. Now back to our discussion.
What I'm scared to notice in this oversimplistic view of farming and in the limited understanding is the misappreciation of the fundamental importance of farmers. Let me repeat that. That's just the real thing that I'm scared of, and I notice that a lot because we approach farming and we try to make it as simple as we can, but in the process, we gain a misappreciation of the fundamental importance of farmers. Farming is relegated as last on the list of profession when it should be the first. That's one evidence that we have forgotten the importance of farmers. We have the byword, you cannot do this, just go into farming.
Or
Or when you have lesser education, you go into farming. And I hate that when I hear that. We view it as something sometimes unknowingly participating in the propagation of the thinking that farming is
it's
just a
just
poor man's job. It is
yeah.
not a poor man's job. In fact, it depends on the economy. Agriculture system works in different ways and different
Different
things in different places.
places. Yes.
And in the list of business investment options, the scary part it is not even on the list. It's like a secret list that when you run out of option, just go into farming. And that's a bad situation to be in, and that would definitely show why sometimes the agriculture is not developing. And um, we that are far off, that we have forgotten that the meal we ate a while ago, the beer we drank last night, the clothes we wear, all came from the work of the farmer. We
Hmm.
actually owe our lives
To the
to
farmers.
our farmers.
Yes. Actually, I just baked a batch of cookies today, and I remembered all the farmers who planted some oats and wheat maybe 4 months ago, and it is now here in the Philippines, imported from the Ukraine, maybe.
And Australia, most of our
Australia,
wheat is from Australia.
yeah,
Yes,
and Argentina too. Or
not that far.
anyway, that's so true. Aside from my teacher, I can also recall some of my classmates who grew up in a farm, and still they recall the good memories of getting eggs from the chicken coop for breakfast.
So long as it's their chicken,
It's not the neighbor's
the
chicken.
neighbor's chicken.
But of course, after living in the urban areas as adults, they had no choice but to buy eggs from the supermarket.
Yep.
And some of
Mm.
my classmates abroad in temperate countries, they also try to grow a vegetable garden, but they have to deal with the winter season with the frost. So they usually just have to sigh and reminisce the times they can just harvest any time in the Philippines where we don't have snow.
Yeah, that's also how we get to detach from where our food is coming from,
Mm,
because we have different journeys in life and not everybody stays in
one
one place.
place.
So because of that journey, we become detached.
Hmm.
That's why I was saying it's nobody's fault. We are detached from where our food comes from. And that's why it is important also that we go back where to give importance to those who are really tilling the soil and farming for us, because remember, you are able to do what you're doing now because somebody else is
Is
farming
farming
for
for you.
you. Now, farming develops in different places in different ways. Uh, it's not all the same. It's not the way farming in Western countries and farming uh, uh, the same with us, because the climate has a way of dictating how we do agriculture in
Hmm.
different places.
Yeah.
And you know the story about the difference between the European bees and the tropical bees,
And
how
our
they hoard honey,
uh-huh.
um, because the tropical bees understands that a flower will always exist, so there's no need for too much hoarding or collection of honey,
Hmm.
while the European bees, they hoard so much honey
Chun.
because they know they need to survive the
The
winter.
winter season.
So that's a great analogy of
Hmm.
how farming develops in different places in different ways. So when we look at that and we see why other countries have more advanced agriculture than the others, that also is influenced by where that is located. And not all soils are the same. Not all places have the same
Acidity.
topography wherein everything grows the same way in all places. No,
Uh-huh.
and I would like to touch a little about that, because sometimes we have this attitude. We look at farmers and say, "How come you're not successful when you're smart? How come you're not able to make a profit on certain production?"
Hmm.
And those reaction comes with it a measure that we are trying to measure one success because they have all the components. And sometimes the failure is not because of their doing, but because of the nature that is around them. That's what I meant. Now, um, a tropical climate is a blessing and at the same time a curse.
A curse.
Yeah, because if you look, observe the globe, most of the successful big farming agriculture areas are those who are not in the tropics,
Tropicals.
yeah, tropical country. So that is also a blessing and a curse. Um, that's why we have to work on changing our mindset. You
Uh-huh.
want a better agriculture in the Philippines, you have to change your mindset, and it's very crucial that we do that. Um, But I believe we can create a solution for the
Oh
Philippines.
yes. If
We can
if
actually do that.
so,
The,
like you said the last time, if there's a will, there's a way. If there's no real purpose then to do things, no drive to do it, then there's many excuses.
yes, and also when there's no urgency, why do we need to do something when there's no urgency? That's the bad effect of the tropics sometimes, because do we know there's no winter tomorrow? So
Oh
we'll say, okay, we'll do it tomorrow. So
yeah.
we'll do this work tomorrow, and sometimes efficiency is also affected.
So the question comes to mind is, must we wait until retirement before we can be going into farming?
Uh, when I hear that, that's why I really want to know why are they saying they need to wait for retirement before they can go into farming. And sometimes I suspect that they have a sense that farming is not their concern, and that's why they are not doing farming while they have the energy.
The strength to
They're
do it.
just waiting until they've done and enjoyed their life and go into farming, thinking that farming would be easy. That's one common mistake, that thinking that farming would be
It's
easy. It really varies why.
uh-huh.
We're not judging people why they're going to farming, but this is just a perspective check. This is a discussion wherein we are challenging everybody to look into yourself and have a self reflection as to why you're saying that you would wait in retirement before you go into agriculture.
And retirement usually takes about what, six, when you're 60 years old or 65 in our country.
Well,
You
retirement is
retire about
the forced retirement would be you need to be 65. You're no longer employable, or
mhm,
they're encouraging you to retire. But actually, it's just a creation of man. When do you really stop working? Now, in our case, our story is very different.
yeah.
We did not wait for retirement before we went into farming. And the reason for that is when we were having this discussion 13 years ago,
Mhm.
we were saying, I think this is better to retire while we have the energy
Yeah,
and do something else that make a difference to somebody else.
because
So,
farming requires a lot of physical work,
but
the
we
grit.
but still we don't have that idea before when
Yeah.
we were beginning into this journey of farming. And now after years of experience, somehow these are the things that I found out.
Mhm.
Okay, this may be a clue for those people asking how to begin or where to
Where to begin?
begin once they go into the journey of farming.
Mhm.
One thing I've learned is farming is not simply about planting and producing. Okay, let me explain. Uh, Even if you have planted, let's say, eggplant, that
Mhm.
doesn't automatically make you a farmer. It's like when you know how to use a hammer,
That
it doesn't
doesn't
make
make
you a
you a carpenter.
carpenter. So farming itself, the in true to the term, is more about a profession, a lifestyle, wherein you're taking a role in the society to produce food, fuel, and clothing for the greater number of members of the society that are not involved in agriculture. That's one thing. So, planting or farming is not as simple as planting and producing. Um, Retirement agriculture is good. Okay, let me qualify that. This is the second thing that I would like to point out. Retirement agriculture is good, but there is more work now before retirement. What I mean to say is, if you want to go into agriculture, sometimes we think farming would only require us certain amount of money and this amount of energy and this amount of effort. Boy, I tell you, when we started farming, we realized that oh, our idea of farming is much smaller than what really is confronting us
On the ground.
on the ground. Yes. So another thing that I have learned is uh, in agriculture, everyone is involved. We are all participants
In
in the
this.
solution to the agricultural problem. Now, when I was not a farmer yet, I thought that the farming job is the job of the farmers, and I have nothing to do with it. I will do my part in the society. And then when I was a farmer, I realized that when I was not yet a farmer, I should have been involved somehow and concerned about the farmers.
Mhm.
So because if we are not involved, if we are not thinking about it, like when we buy our the products of the farmer, we think of only of ourselves. We don't think of how those are produced. We don't we don't worry about how our farmers are surviving.
And we think of the DA, the Department of Agriculture, as the one responsible for that.
Yes, that's another common mistake that
Uh,
the agriculture is the work of the Department of Agriculture when it is not.
Not just.
Well, not just the
Uh-huh.
Department of Agriculture, and not definitely not the farmers only,
Uh-huh.
because the farmers exist to produce our food, and we are the one patronizing those products. And if we are not a good customer, the farmers will suffer as well.
Mhm.
Now, the sooner we realize that we are interconnected,
Mhm.
we have a better chance of fixing what is wrong and improve agriculture.
Mhm.
So this is really crucial. The sooner we realize that we are all interconnected and agriculture is all our concern, we have a better chance of fixing it and improve agriculture.
So it begins with the mindset.
Well, number four, our agri state is only as good as our society's mindset. Look at the places where they have big agriculture. They have the mindset brought about by the urgency to produce food because they have winter, they have a scarcity of soil,
Mhm.
they have the need to survive. There's drought. They are changing their mindset. And those who are economies that are lagging behind, if we don't change our mindset quick enough, we will continue to lag behind.
The survival mindset in developing countries, the isang kahig, isang tuka, what's just there. No
Well,
foresight.
it's also a product of what's urgent and what limitation you have, and
Mhm.
poverty is really an evil thing that plagues our many places in the developing countries.
Mhm.
Now, number four, I one thing I realize also is our agricultural state or our the state of our agriculture is as only is only as good as the society's mindset. It's not the farmer's mindset only, but the society's mindset. Now, another thing that I have come to realize is more money does not fix agriculture per se. You may have all the wealth, in the Philippines. Cebu is one of the richest province in the whole country, and yet we cannot say we are the best agriculture. So that's a case in point that money does not fix agriculture per se. Now, another thing that this one I would like to point out, another thing that I've learned after becoming a farmer is there is no evil conspiracy to kill us and control the population using agriculture. There is no
Theory.
there is no evil conspiracy there. Oh, we are all. I mean, farmers are just trying to survive, producing food for those who are non-farmers, and there's no such thing as evil conspiracy. So don't get that. Don't be caught up in that conspiracy hunter, and it's really a crazy world when you do that. Now, this is the last time I would like to point out that we have learned when we became farmers. that organic agriculture is not the best and only way to do it.
Uh-huh.
There are other systems, and there are better systems. And agriculture is often dictated by the market availability. So, what is sellable, what works in that place, may not necessarily be the same demand in certain places. So, it's not about organic versus not conventional agriculture. No, farming is always about what is needed. So it's driven by a certain form of market. When there is a need, there's a demand, and demand is in its way a market.
And we can say that because we have tried organic farming ourselves, right?
Yeah, we will be okay if we're close to the market for organic products.
Right.
But no, and will the farmers around us be able to copy the system? Will we be true to that certification required? You know, a lot of farm are calling organic farm, but actually it is required to have certification,
Yes.
and it takes years. And an ordinary farmer shifting to organic certified farms would take some time. And can they survive while transitioning? So those are the things, and there are details about this, and these are just the things I can point out to share for you to consider if you're going to farming when you retire.
Yeah.
Now, what else can you say, Miss Farmer AD?
I'm just getting a bit of a summary from what you said that food, fiber, and fuel are essentially everybody's concern, not just the farmers, not
Mm-hmm.
just the DA. And deciding to go in that direction of farming and agriculture is truly commendable, di ba?
Yeah, it is. And it's actually needed. The demand to produce all those things are getting higher and higher as the populations increase. And the ability for farmers to produce is also getting more difficult as time goes by. As economies are shifting, capitalist attitude are shifting, farmers are finding it hard to swim in those changes, and because farmers are left alone to do the the farming concern on
On
their
their own,
own.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm calling everybody to go back and realize that farming concerns is everybody's
Everybody's concerned.
concern.
Okay. And here's a quote I read recently from Facebook, posted by Crop Life. It says, "Farming is not just a job, it's a love story written in the soil, nurtured by sweat, and harvested with a heart full of dedication." What do you think?
That is so true. That is so true. But also true is that agriculture development requires resources.
Resource.
It requires money.
Mm-hmm.
It requires
Planning.
planning. It is not dependent on calendar years. Okay, when December ends, the season doesn't necessarily end. It
No.
overlaps. And sometimes we think of those seasons, those it's not like an 8 to 5 job.
Right, right.
It's not actually dictated by loan terms, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why sometimes there's a disconnect between capitalization financing
The
and
farming.
farming, because loan creditors would always have a specific time frame where when the payment is, but when it's not tailor fit for farming, there will be some
It
troubles.
puts a burden on the farmers
Yeah.
even more.
Its economics is a little complex, you know. For agriculture and farming is not as simple as buying and selling,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and we must approach it as such. So, just these are just things that I can say when somebody is thinking of retiring and doing farming.
For myself, looking back around 14, 13 years ago, I never would have thought of doing farming because I was at the peak of my career really at that time. I chose to train in media work, but in hindsight, seeing how God has led us to this line of work as a
Mhm.
mission,
Mhm.
not just a job, but there's a heart to help the people here in Camotes. It gives me assurance that we are on the right track. as we do our part in alleviating poverty through agriculture. Not very easy, but very fulfilling.
And sometimes we think that we're at the end part
Mhm.
when actually we're just
Beginning.
beginning. And that's how agriculture is sometimes. It's just the beginning for the next generation to continue,
Right.
and the next generation to continue and continue. So, well, thank you for joining us in our discussion in this episode of On the Ground with Farmer AD. And I hope you can see and appreciate what we're trying to say and discuss with you. But for us, we appreciate you visiting our podcast today.
Yes, definitely. And we hope you can join us again next episode.
And again, I hope you're having a good time. And if you are listening to our podcast while having a walk or jogging or driving, and maybe you're near your home
Mhm.
already, again, thank you, and catch you on the next episode on the Ground with Farmer AD. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the ground
I am Farmer AD.
with Mrs. Farmer AD.
On our podcast, where the seeds of knowledge are sprouting,
Keep it grounded
keep it rooted.
and keep it growing. Until
Until
next
next
time.
time.
Please subscribe.